On today's Apple Daily, my 3 biggest takeaways from yesterday's iPhone event. Number 1, Apple can no longer be called overpriced. Number 2, Apple is taking back the Pro name for Pro things. And number 3, well, I haven't thought of number 3 yet, but I'm sure we'll find one during the video.
This is the Apple Daily.
My name's David for Living on iPad, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. If you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss a thing. And when you've done all 3 of those, leave me a comment, let me know that you have, and you will get a shout out at the end of the video, like the guy at the end of this one. So I have no real notes for today's show, but we're going to go through it. First of all, Apple is no longer overpriced. When you look at the range of pricing that Apple has for its products, you can now get an iPhone with last year's processor for $399. You can then get one that's nicer because it's got the better display with a slightly older processor for $499, and then you can get last year's flagship phone for $599, and then this year's smallest phone for $699, and then $799, and then $999 for the Pro model, and then $1099 for the big Pro model that's got insane cameras, and you could basically make a Hollywood movie on. I think every year we say you could make a Hollywood movie on an iPhone, but this year you've literally got Dolby Vision, HDR, 10-bit color depth, 4K at 60 frames per second. You've got insane stuff. You can take photos that have the equivalent of RAW, but with computational, so it's even better than RAW because you've got more data there. It's just the amount of stuff that Apple puts into these things is insane now. And it's not just talking about the iPhone where Apple isn't overpriced anymore. You can buy a brand new Apple Watch for $199. You can buy one that has the latest designs for $280, and then the high-end one is $400. And then for iPads, yes, you can spend $1,000 or more on an iPad Pro, or you can get the base level iPad for $329, and it will do pretty much everything that top-end one will do. It'll use a slightly less convenient pencil. It has bezels at the top and the bottom, just like the iPhone SE, but it does the job, and you can get into the Apple ecosystem for actually a really reasonable amount of money now. I think you could probably, let's do the maths here, so you could get an iPhone SE, an Apple Watch Series 3, and an iPad. $930, right? How good is my maths? So $400 for the iPhone SE, another $200, so we're $600. For $930, you can get an iPhone SE, an Apple Watch Series 3, and an iPad 8th generation. That's a really, really good value for under $1,000. In fact, for under $1,000, you can probably just about squeeze in the Apple Watch SE instead of the Series 3, which will do you a much, much better deal. And Apple has always had this reputation for having the Apple tax, but Steve Jobs said back in the day,
and we can't do it. We just can't ship junk.
Apple has got to the point now where they produce so many things at such volume that they can actually use slightly outdated technology, even though the iPhone SE until yesterday had the latest possible processor. The A13 chip in there is still absolutely flying and probably quicker than 99% of Android phones out there. Apple is not the expensive option anymore. It's just an option where you don't get features that are untested or are not necessarily what you need. You don't get gimmicky features. You pretty much get what you need, and you get it done well. And that is a really good thing. Number 2, my second takeaway, Apple is making Pro again. And I mean Pro. When we look at the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, specifically the Pro Max more than anything else, you can shoot Dolby Vision video at 4K at 10-bit color depth, and you can edit it on a phone, and you can shoot 1080p at 240 frames per second. You can shoot Apple RAW photos, which have got huge amounts of data in there for anyone that knows what they're doing with it. But none of these features are things that particularly will appeal to the general public. And that's okay. They're not designed for the general public. That's why we have the iPhone 12 and the 12 mini. Those are designed for people who want a phone that they can pick up and they can take a photo and it will look nice, and then they can take one in the dark and it will still look nice. They can share it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And if you want to create more cinematic stuff, if you want to create stuff that is more professional, I mean, I think you could probably make an argument that a professional photographer who knows what they're doing with an iPhone would be able to do professional work on it, and clients would not know the difference between this or photos that were taken, in most cases, on a DSLR or a high-end professional camera. And I think that is where we're getting to with iPhones now. We are getting to the point where it comes down to the skill level of the operator with the Pro models, which is exactly what it should be. And in the same sense, the Mac Pro, there were a lot of YouTubers that were really upset that they couldn't buy it and use it to do their YouTube videos. But there were also some very high-end YouTubers who certainly could buy it and use it for their YouTube videos. But there was no point in getting the low-end one. The base model that comes out, that is really just for people who have a specific set of needs and want to buy the low-end one so they can upgrade it in the ways that they need it to be upgraded. It's not designed to be used as it comes at the low end. If you spec it out, it gets up to sort of £50,000+ or $1,000 just for one base system. That's without displays, that's without anything else, that's just the base system. And it's designed specifically for pros who need the power in specific places, in specific ways, and they know exactly what they need to do with it. If you're doing high-end music production, you will spec it out in a certain way. If you're doing high-end video production, you will spec it out in a different way. If you are doing high-end photo editing, you will spec it out in a different way. And that is exactly how the pro end of things is supposed to be. That's why the iPhone 12 looks very much like the iPhone 12 Pro, because people like to have something that looks professional, but not necessarily needing all the internals and all of the performance that professionals need in very specific ways, like increased colour depth so that they can colour grade stuff out. Whereas most people want to be able to pick up their iPhone, take a video, and it look nice, because the iPhone takes care of it. It's exactly the same as when I started using this camera, the Lumix G7, which is not a particularly professional camera, but it is more advanced and more settingsy than an iPhone. And if you look at the early videos on this channel, you will see how horrendous I was at using it to begin with. There are learning curves with these things, and there is going to be a learning curve if you want to get the best out of the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. If you are a professional and you have the time to invest into it, you will get better results than the general public will using the automatic settings. That's just how cameras and now phones and stuff work. I think the last takeaway is just how powerful these A14 processors are, and more importantly, how excited I now am for the Apple Silicon event that's coming at the end of the year. Once these cores go into a laptop or into something that is designed to be used as a general production machine and not as a content consumption device a lot of the time, like an iPad would be, I'm really excited to see what Apple Silicon can do. This isn't a deep dive, this is just my kind of feelings after the event. In terms of our notification squad, we have a new member in the notification squad, although he's been here for a long time. And the newest member is, drumroll, Mark Talks Tech. Thank you so much for subscribing, Mark. I know you've been subscribed for quite a while, it's not a new thing for you, but you didn't tell me before, and that's the problem. We've got a lot of people that are probably subscribed to this channel and have or haven't rung the notification bell, and I haven't been able to give them a shout out yet because nobody has told me. So if you are a subscriber and you haven't hit that notification bell, because I know a lot of you haven't, then you should let me know in the comments that you have, because you're going to ring it right now. And if you haven't even subscribed, like 80% of the people watching this, you should hit that subscribe button, you should ring the bell, and you should join the notification squad so you get a shout out like Mark. Be more like Mark. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on tomorrow's show.